All right, everybody, going to take a quick look at how to adjust preferences inside of Premiere Pro. We're going to go up here to where it says Premiere Pro, and we are going to scroll down to Settings, and then we've got a lot of different options. It doesn't matter which one you click on. I'm just going to go ahead and click General. That's going to open up all of the preference options here in a separate pop-up window. There are a lot of things here that you may want to adjust. For example, here under Appearance, you can see brightness. You can actually come here and make your Premiere Pro window brighter. You can make it darker. You can put it wherever you want it to be. That is entirely up to you. You've got some other options here. The thing that I want to focus on right now is here under Timeline. Now you'll see here when I click that, we have a thing that says Video Transition Default Duration. And that is currently being measured in frames. I can set it to being measured in frames or seconds. If you want to do the math, you can switch it over to seconds. I actually prefer doing it in frames. And I have mine currently set to 15 frames. We typically work in a 30 frame per second editing sequence, which means 15 would be half a second. So if I wanted to go in here and click seconds, I could then set this to 0.5, and that is essentially the same thing as doing 15 frames. Again, I like working with that, and again, that's under Timeline. I like working with it in terms of the actual frames. I'm going to leave mine at 15, and I think that that works out really well for most transitions. Once you put the transition on there, you can always go in and you can double click on it. You can make the transition longer or shorter, or if you're zoomed in far enough, you can actually grab the handle on the edge of it. You can drag it longer, you can drag it shorter. It's kind of up to you. I have set my audio transition default to 2 seconds. That means that if I'm fading out my audio, it is going to fade out over the course of 2 seconds. And I think that that's a good place to start. Sometimes you may want that to be 1 second, so make it shorter in that case. Sometimes you may want it to be 3 seconds, make it a little bit longer. That is entirely up to you. The one thing that I don't know that we've really talked about that definitely deserves time is the still image default duration. So if you create a graphic inside of Premiere, if you create a title, that is going to default to whatever you have this set to. This is currently set to 7 seconds. That means if I bring in still pictures, each of those, when I put it into the sequence, is going to be 7 seconds long. I can then shorten that or lengthen it just by clicking on the edge of that and dragging it one way or the other. I can always cut it and delete the parts I don't want, however I want to do that. But knowing the default image duration option here is really important. For example, if you were doing a slideshow and you had 76 pictures and you wanted it to fit within a certain amount of time, you would just do the math and you would bring that in. So say you have 76 pictures and you have a song that is 76 seconds long, just doing the math easy here. Then I would come in here and I would set the still image duration to 1 second. All right, I'm just gonna click in there and just type in 1. And then that would allow each picture to be 1 second long. So when I put it into the timeline, it would then be exactly the length of my song. So knowing the still image duration, really important. You can use it for your benefit that way. I'm going to go back to 7 seconds just because it's a good number I can work with. It makes it long enough that they're generally easy to see when they're down in the sequence. And then I can trim it however I want to trim it. Right? You're the editor. So when you start editing, you have the options to make it look as long as, to make it look the way you want it to look, as long as you want it to look. There are other things in here, for example, that you might want to deal with your audio or audio hardware. Sometimes if you're having problems hearing, you have to put in headphones and they may not pick up immediately. You could then come into the default output and you would have options here that you might be able to use. In this case, I want mine to come through the default system output. So I'm good with that, but you can make changes to that as well. That is the majority of what you're going to want to do. You can always go in and look at all of the options here. You get to make these decisions because you're the editor, and it needs to be something that you feel comfortable working with. And I wish you all the best. I am now going to click OK, and I have saved my changes. So when I go in here to import, everything will be good to go.